Hey there, welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Josya, board certified physician and love and dating coach for professional women. And I'm so glad you're back. I want to applaud you, first of all, for taking a first step into finding the love that you deserve and wanting to find tools and support in that journey, because let's be honest, it's not easy to find love that's meaningful and that lasts, especially as a professional woman over 35 years old, right? So today, I actually want to talk about that. I want to get into what are the key elements of a lasting relationship, because I do talk a lot about dating. I do talk a lot about what to look for in dating, but we want to really get into once you establish a relationship, okay? So let's get into that right now. So the first thing I want to talk about when we talk about the elements of what's needed in a relationship is vulnerability. Vulnerability allows us to be our authentic selves, and it allows us to really get to know our partner and to see where they're coming from. It's also one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're a professional who's used to being in the boardroom, used to being in the operating room, used to running things, used to having your professional face. Sometimes it's hard to show our true self to someone, especially when we're dating, because many times we want to be accepted. Who doesn't want to be accepted, right? We don't want to deal with rejection. But in order to move from the first, the second, the third, the fifth date, the first month, the second month, and so on, we have to have a level of vulnerability. We have to let our real self show. And what happens in some relationships that fail is that no one really showed their true self. And by the time they did, the relationship has further gone in. There's been more investing into it, or just the other person doesn't accept the true self. And then there ends up being a breakup, right? So we want to avoid all of that. We want to prevent all of that. We want to be able to be open and honest and who we are from day one. Now, with being vulnerable, that doesn't mean that you are sharing all of your secrets, especially right as you meet somebody, right? The person needs to earn the opportunity to get to see more and more of you. But you also have to be willing to do so. So when you are in a dating situation, I don't want to say relation because you're not in a relationship yet, and the man you are dating is willing to show sides of himself, meet him where he is. Be honest, be true. And at the end of the day, no one can judge you but God, all right? So if he doesn't like what he sees, that's okay. Better to move on to someone who will take you as you are, who will love you as you are, because that's what you deserve. All right, we're imperfect people, and let's be honest, when we think about our friends and those we encounter as friends over the years, they're not perfect, and we accept them as they are, flaws and all. What makes the friendships work is that we're willing to work on them. Okay, some people say they work because there's no sexual involvement. That's not necessarily what's true, because you probably have also had friendships over the years that have broken up altogether or have fizzled out, and you still keep in touch but not the same level of intimacy. But what makes friendships work is that you're both willing to work on it. You continually choose to commit to one another in friendship. And so let's apply that into the dating situation, into relationships, into relationship building, because it's not enough for me to say I want to help you find love, but I want you to keep it. I don't want you to be a statistic. I want you to find love that's going to last and last and last, and it's just going to be beautiful and amazing. And the reality is that as human beings, we continue to change. We continue to evolve. Who we were a year ago is not who we are today, right? And who we will be in 5 years won't be who we are today either. So we want to have a level of vulnerability and openness in relation that as we change and as our partner changes, we can navigate it together. So examples may be you get a new job, or your partner gets a new job, or you lose a job, whether you decided to quit or they decided to lay you off, or children come into the picture, or you have changes of religion or faith. Like, a lot of changes can happen in a relationship, and we need to be able to weather those things, right? And it's beyond just the limited marriage vows, which were written centuries ago. and don't include things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis in today's 21st century society. Okay? So that's the first thing, vulnerability. The second thing is going to be accountability. Accountability is crucial in a relationship because as you're growing and evolving as an individual, the person you're in a relationship with is your mirror. Again, back to using friendship, because friendship should be the foundation of your relationship anyway. Your partner is going to call you out on things. And it may be things that you don't want to be called out. Maybe you're not as neat a person at home as you are at work. And they say, hey, pick up your socks off the floor or whatever. I'm using that as a benign example. But they're going to call you out on things, and you have to be able to handle the accountability. The same way you're able to give feedback to people, especially as a professional woman, we do that a lot in our jobs. We have employees who work under us. We have people who answer to us, and we give feedback. We, hold them accountable the same way we have to expect that we'll be held accountable in a relationship. And for a lot of people who haven't been held accountable in relationships, or they're going off of the false beliefs they see on TV and movies and what have you, the minute they're held accountable, then they want to lash out or throw a jab right back if they haven't learned healthy ways to manage conversations, conflict, or what have you. And then that can also lead to breakups in relationships and changes. So be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to be held accountable. Be willing to receive feedback the way you're willing to give feedback. And if you realize that your feedback you're giving is harsh, then revise it. Not everything that's thought needs to be said. Not everything that's might be a pet peeve needs to become a deal breaker. So let's learn to give grace to the other person the same way we would love grace for ourselves. And if you're not used to giving yourself grace, I urge you to do that. I urge you, if you need to seek therapy to learn that, to unlearn bad behaviors or unhealthy behaviors you might have picked up throughout life from your own family you grew up with, from your educational experience, because we spent decades in school, so there's a lot of socialization that happens in that setting. In your career path, maybe you're in a career path where to be successful, you have to be cutthroat. You have to throw jabs. You have to hit first before you get hit. But we need to unlearn those things when we get into our relationships and be able to not be so edgy and so full of drama. Like, relax. Okay? This is the person you want to spend your life with, you want to build with. Let's practice those things now. So when we do recognize that this person we're dating is relationship material and you guys move it on forward, that you're building on a strong foundation. And when things get rocky, you can fall back on that foundation. So be willing to be held accountable. There's a saying in the Bible that iron sharpens iron, right? And that's what good friends do for one another. So if your partner is your best friend, you want to experience the sharpening and be okay with that, because it's ultimately for your good. You love one another. You want to rely on that love to get you through. And let's talk about love real quick. I want to do a quick aside about love. For far too many people, there's this prevailing idea that love is just erotic, that is just passion, that is just hedonistic, it's just pleasure and orgasms. Don't get me wrong, orgasms are fantastic. But we need to move beyond the fleshy, sensual definition of love and really get into the deeper meanings. In the Greek, there are actually several words that describe love, right? One is agape, which is like divine love, the creator. There's then eros, which I just alluded to, the erotic love, the 50 Shades of Grey, the whips and chains and all those things you hear about in some songs. And or even just passion you see in the soap operas. Then you have your filios, like I came from Philadelphia. The word literally is the city of brotherly love. So filios, like that fraternal sorority like love, the brother love, the sister love we have for one another, the friendship love. And there are a few more. Those are the big three that definitely come to mind. If you remember the other Greek ones, please put them in the comments for me. I want to hear from you nerds. So when we think about love in a relationship, it needs to have all those aspects of love. If it's going to last, you have to have that brother sisterly love. You're going to have that divine love in there, that the divine love of grace and forgiveness, of seeing the good in the other person. You're going to have that erotic love as well. But we want to make sure we have all these elements and that they're all balanced, because again, life is life. There's great days, there's not so great days, and we want to be able to balance these and navigate them so that our relationships can weather the storms that come our way. So, vulnerability, then we talked about accountability. Another thing that makes a relationship last is communication. And communication is not just verbal, it's also nonverbal communication, right? So verbal, yes, we're talking, we're expressing ourselves, but also we're going to be mindful of our tone, our pitch, our volume, our speed. All these things can convey meanings beyond the words that are actually coming out of our mouth. We also want to talk about our nonverbal communication, and that's as we're speaking to someone. What is our bite? Are we shoulders hunched up? Are we scrunched face? Are we tapping a foot? And that's not just if we're talking, but also if we're listening to someone. Are we constantly looking at our watch? Is our body turned away from them? So this thing, and I know my doctors will get this because there's actually training as a physician on communication and communicating with patients, and open-ended communication in terms of the questions you ask and body language, and the body language you convey. We want to apply those in our personal relationships as well. Communication is important. We don't want to, if there's a difference of opinion, to shut down. Okay, maybe you want to set a time like, I'm not ready to talk right now. Can we come back to this? And that takes practice. That takes time, especially, as I said earlier, if you came from previous experiences where this wasn't talked about, where shutting down was normal, where lashing out was normal, where, I'm going to talk about your mama was normal, And so we want to unlearn those things and practice and practice and practice different ways of speaking and communicating, so that when situations happen, we can then talk about them from a place of calm and work through it, and remembering again the foundational part of the relationship, that we have each other's good intentions at heart. We have each other's love at heart, and that's what's important. Which brings me to my next part. An important part of and foundational part of a relationship is spiritual connection. And when I say spiritual connection, this goes back to where I say having love and best interest at heart. Because sometimes relationships fail because the one person doesn't love the other anymore. And again, the anymore can be that the love wasn't strong to begin with. It was just that one element. It could have just been erotic. Okay, and the person gained a few pounds, and now you're falling out of love, right? Or you see someone else and you are attracted to them, therefore you're, quote, out of love with the person you're with. So you can have those elements that happen and causes issues, but if there's spiritual connection, then you can always connect with the Creator, with God, as I call the Creator, to reestablish your foundation and remind yourself all the reasons you're in your relationship, all the positive attributes, and to be able to connect with God in terms of praying and bringing good intention into your relationship so that it continues to flourish, it continues to grow. So you're praying as an individual, you're praying as a couple, that your partner is also someone who prays and has a faith connection. There's something to be said about being partnered with someone who answers to someone higher than themselves, and they're not the end all be all. We have politicians who think they're the end all be all, and they act that way. And guess what? When they act that way, it doesn't help the greater good. It actually hurts a lot of people. And I use politicians as one example, but it can be individuals you've known in your life growing up. It could be actors, celebrities, athletes. When folks don't have, and I know I'm being generalistic in some way, because even for those who don't believe in God and atheists, a lot of them still believe in a higher good, right? And still are accountable to some. But for those who do not feel they're accountable to anyone or anything, that's a dangerous place to be in, and you don't want to be with someone like that. So that's why I say you want to have someone who you have a spiritual connection with. Notice I did not say you're the same denomination or the same religion, because you have plenty of examples of people who sat next to each other in the church pew and they were not compatible. Okay, so please do not be misled by simply, oh, they're my denomination, oh, they tithe like I do, they go to church on Saturday Sabbath like I do, they know their Bible, they read it 4 times a year, front, cover to cover, they're the one for me. Please don't be misled by that. Okay. I have in my own past dated pastors, and let me tell you, um, not all of them were spiritual. Okay? Not all of them were spiritual. Not all of them are connected to God. They're doing a job. They're standing in front of a pulpit and they're preaching, but they don't have a connection. So let me be very, very, very clear about that without giving away details or names of folks. So, and I use the pastor as an example to really make that clear. And more than one pastor, too. Let me be clear about that as well. And more than one denomination as well. Has been in my experience. So, make sure, and how do you make sure? You can't just simply ask them, because of course I've also met guys who just said, hey, I tell women I go to church just to date them, because they know that's what women are looking for. They said it straight up. So you want to see how they operate, see how they move. Okay. As we talked about in previous videos, if you are connected to your intuition, aka your gut feeling, aka the Holy Spirit, aka your conscience, your inner knowing, you will be able to have a clear sense of if this person is spiritually connected and grounded. They don't necessarily have to just say it out their mouth, but their actions will speak for that. And of course, in time, as you move beyond those initial dates and start moving towards relationship, then you can get even more information about where this person stands in their walk and how they approach life and different things, and see whether there's a compatibility with that. Because ultimately, the overarching thing is you want to have someone who has a growth mindset, someone who will grow with you, who will be able to navigate life with you as you change, as they change, as life changes. All right, so let's recap what we talked about today. We talked about some elements that are important in having a relationship, because we don't want to just date and get into one and say, okay, I'm done, but we want a relationship that's going to last for forever. So vulnerability, being willing to be open and be our true selves, and allowing our future spouse, to be their full self. Accountability, being willing to have iron sharpen iron so we can become better and improved. Communication, because as we communicate, then we can be able to navigate different challenges and all, and not just communicate, but also the way we communicate verbally and non-verbally. And the last thing is a spiritual connection. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. I really hope that you can implement this. If you are interested in working with me, I will open up some spots for some coaching, some one-on-one coaching, possibly some group work as well, depending on where the interest lies. So feel free to send me an email, hello@drjosya.com. Let me know what you're interested in. We can set up a time to talk. And until then, or until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys soon.